Hello, my name is Leena Shah, and I'm a developer at Oracle working on the content management headless samples. Today I'm going to show you how to build a block sample in Angular using Oracle Content and Experience as a headless CMS. Let's get started. The first thing we want to do is clone this repository in GitHub. This is the universal Angular block sample that is already set up to use Oracle Content Management. Open up a command prompt and type git clone and the URL of this repository. Then change to the newly created directory. Open the sample with a code editor of your choice. I will be using Visual Studio Code. The first thing we want to do is open a new terminal and install the dependencies for this project. For this, type in npm install. While the dependencies are getting installed, let's take a look at some of the files for this sample. Note the package.json file, which contains some scripts that help with building and starting this sample. For this tutorial, we will be using the build and start scripts. Also note the dependencies section, which lists all the dependencies for this sample. Note the dependency on the Oracle Content Management SDK. Next, let's take a look at the .env file, which is the configuration file. We use environment variables to store configuration information about the Oracle Content Management Server. The server listed in server_URL is a public Oracle Content Management Server. The channel token is what will be used by Angular to authenticate into our Oracle Content Management instance. One thing that's really important is to ensure that you configure your cross-origin resource sharing to avoid any distributed denial of service attack. It's best not to check in this information as part of your source control code because attackers may use it to attempt to access your OCE instance. Now that the dependencies are installed, let's start a build. Type in npm run build. The build script first runs the client build and then runs the server build. It creates the disk folder and also creates the browser and server folder underneath it. These folders need to be deployed on the server machine before you start the server application. To spin up a live local development server, type in npm run start. This will start the server on port 8080. Let's head on to the browser. And see the sample in action. Here the home page is fetching a content item of the type OCE Getting Started homepage, and that contains a list of topics along with the company name and logo and some URLs. A topic is of the asset type OCE Getting Started topic and has a thumbnail field along with a name and a description. When you click on one of the topics, you will see a list of items that are of the content type OCE Getting Started article. When you click on an article, you will see the article content along with the author details, which is of the content type OCE Getting Started author. Let's go ahead and take a look at the code which is making all this possible. All of the source code for this sample resides under the source folder. First, let's take a look at source, scripts, server config utils.ts file. Note that the first line imports the clients from the content management SDK. This file also defines a function called getClient, which instantiates a new client, which enables one to access the content stored in Oracle Content Management Server. Here we are using the environment variables that were defined in the .env file to create the client. This method getClient is used by methods defined in services.js. So let's take a look at that file. In this file, you will find methods that encapsulate calls to the content SDK and return the results back to the Angular components to be rendered. For example, here's a method, fetch homepage, which uses the query items method defined on the client. It queries for items of type OCE getting started homepage and those which have a name of homepage. The data that is sent back by the server is then processed and returned back to the component. Similarly, here's another method called fetch topic articles, which again uses the client and uses the query items method on it to get items of type OCE getting started article and that which have a specific topic ID that is passed in. In short, this file contains all the content SDK calls the sample needs to render the data. In Angular, components are written in TypeScript and define a template that defines the view. These templates contain ordinary HTML, Angular directives, and binding markup, which enable Angular to adjust the HTML before it is rendered. The app module is located in source app module.ts file. This bootstraps the application with the app component. This file defines the different routes for our application. In our site, we want to provide 3 routes. The home page, which consists of the topics list, the topic page, which displays all the articles for the selected topic, and the article page, which displays the selected article. Note that the topic page and the article page expect an argument in its URL. All of these routes define the resolvers used to get all the data required for the route before the routes components are created. All of these resolvers appear in the resolvers folder. The topics list data resolver handles getting the data to render in the home page. Here you will see that it makes a call to get topics list page data, which is defined in services.js. Similarly, the articles list data resolver gets the data required for the topic page. And the articles details data resolver handles getting the data for the article page. The home page consists of a list of individual topics. It is rendered by the topic list component, which is located in the topics list folder. This component is defined in the topicslist.component.ts file. In the ngOnInit method, the component gets the data from the active route, which was populated by the topics list data resolver. The markup for this component is located in the same folder as the component. Note that this component uses the topic list item component, which can be found in the topic list item folder. When you click on a topic, the subsequent page displays the articles in the topic whose ID is passed in the URL. It is rendered by the articles list component located in the articles list folder. Here too, you will see that the ngOnInit method uses the data from the route. This data was populated by the articles list data resolver. The markup for this component is in the same folder. When you click on an article, the following page displays details of the article whose ID is passed on the URL. It is rendered by the article details component.ts file. Here too you will note that the template for this component is in the same folder. Let's revisit the sample in the browser. As you can see, here is the home page that is being rendered by the topics list component that we saw earlier. A click on the topic will make a request for articles in a specific topic. This is handled by the component defined in articles list component. Similarly, a click on an article will make a request for an article, which is handled by the component defined in article details component. Well, that's it from my end. Thank you for watching this video about how you can use Angular in conjunction with Oracle Content Management as a headless CMS to build and implement blog app. You can find more samples like this on our headless CMS documentation pages. Have fun building.